I really believe the Tesla Model 3 is the only entry-level electric vehicle worth buying today. I know that's kind of a bold statement, so let me explain. Electric cars are quickly becoming the new standard, and while there's a lot of different kinds of electric cars, I still think that Teslas are really the only one worth buying at this point. Some of the top competitors, they're pretty good, but none of them have really caught on the way that Tesla has. Teslas actually account for over half of all electric cars that are sold, and driving a Model 3 myself really got me interested in what the other electric cars have to offer and if they really compare at all. So I rented one and did some research with the others, and honestly I had a really open mind about it, and I did like some things about this car, but I still think if you're looking at an electric vehicle, it's only worth getting a Tesla, and today I'll explain why.
The first thing we need to look at here to really understand it is the price.
With having the car, I've realized that there's actually kind of this misconception where people think the Model 3 is way more expensive than other electric cars.
Like, no joke, I've had friends that thought the Model 3 was $60,000 or $80,000.
So we can see here that the Model 3 is actually cheaper than the BMW i3, close to the same price as the Chevy Bolt, and I will say the Nissan Leaf is quite a bit lower, but when you go on the Nissan Leaf website and add basic features like, a charging cord, it quickly gets $2,000 or $3,000 more.
Also, with the Nissan Leaf, you have to go to a dealership, and I think anyone who's bought a car at a dealership knows that the price online is never really accurate, and you always end up paying quite a bit more. So I highly doubt many people are actually paying $29,000 for the Nissan Leaf. While the Tesla Model 3, the price on the website is the price that you and everyone else pays, which personally I really like.
So I decided to actually rent the BMW i3 because it's actually more expensive than the Tesla Model 3. So it should be better than the Model 3, right?
Not exactly.
Probably the most important factor of getting an electric car is the amount of range that you get. And none of these other electric cars have as good of a range as a Tesla Model 3. The $30,000 Nissan Leaf only has 150 miles, the Chevy Bolt gets pretty close, and the BMW i3 only has 153 miles unless you get a range extender.
Which is gas powered, so it's kind of cheating. Like, they're not really making a fully electric car that goes to that range. They're supplementing it a little bit with gas.
I also found with the BMW in particular, it had a weird way of predicting how much range you had. It was just kind of confusing and not as straightforward as a Tesla.
Okay, so I've really only just picked up the car and I already kind of need to charge it. So right here we can see that we have 34 miles of gas and 34 miles of electricity.
A few moments later.
So we've definitely driven over 25 miles now, and it says we've really only driven 6 or 7. On the one hand, I'm like, that's kind of nice because you're always gonna be like, oh, that's all? I still have so much range left. But on the other hand, it's totally inaccurate. Like, I don't know how you could ever really predict how much you have.
So not only was it kind of confusing to see how much range you had in the i3, but it simply just doesn't have as much range as a Model 3 and you're still paying more for it. The next reason is actually charging speed. So Teslas have access to a really vast supercharger network that will charge your car in 20 or 40 minutes, but the other electric car brands don't have access to this and they have to rely on a much slower destination charging network.
Okay, so I've never really used the EVgo network, but I guess you just use this little card.
If you're not at a Tesla supercharger, most of the other charging stations are between 15 and 30 miles per hour, which is so much slower. It's going to keep you tied up at that charger for hours. So I guess EVgo has expanded with some rapid chargers that claims to charge in 30 minutes, but every time I've seen an EVgo station, there's only a couple stalls and they're almost always taken.
This is the other struggle. I saw a girl just drive by in an electric car and she's clearly waiting to charge, and there's only 2 charging stations, and I would just hate to have to rely on this EVgo network.
If you're charging at home overnight, this isn't that much of an issue, but definitely at some point you're going to have to destination charge, and in any car that's not a Tesla, I just find that it takes significantly longer. That's why this kind of ridiculous article came out claiming that it took 13 hours round trip to go to Vegas and back from LA.
So I just mapped out that same route with a Tesla. You would only have to stop to charge once for 25 minutes. So huge difference from having to stop to charge for multiple hours. I just would never want to take any other electric vehicle on a road trip but a Tesla because it just seems ridiculous to charge for multiple hours. So this next reason is a little shallow, but it's very true. And it is that the Model 3 is the only entry-level electric vehicle that actually looks good.
I really think the Model 3 is a great looking car. I love how it looks, whereas all these other electric cars kind of resemble a smart car and just have this sort of dorky look to them. They're not like the worst looking cars ever, but personally they're really not my style. Even the BMW i3 isn't that sporty looking, which is really shocking because basically every other car they make looks really cool.
Okay, so I'm in the i3. First impressions of this car, it's actually like really roomy in here and it's nice. It feels like a luxury car. Of course, it's a BMW, but the outside of it is so like dorky looking. So see what I mean? This car is kind of a weird shape. One thing I think is odd is that they gave you a door, but they really should have just committed fully and given you a real door. This, if you get in here, you are like stuck back here. And you can only open this if this is open.
This weird door situation just makes it really annoying if no one opens that door for you.
I mean, you probably wouldn't do this that much, but it's like, just give me a full door, you know?
You know what? I did find something I really liked about this car style-wise. It's just so random, but I'm gonna include it.
So one random thing me and Lauren both realized, love the sound it makes when it's telling you to not do something.
It's pleasant.
Wait, it didn't do it anymore.
Is the car on?
Oh, here we go. That's such a pleasant noise.
Sound. It sounds like the beginning of a song. It's like
here, it'll do more too, won't
like
it?
An Usher song, not an Usher.
If I put it in drive and we don't have like our seatbelts on.
It happened when I opened the car.
Oh, love that.
Bing.
I just want a recording of this.
Dun dun psh, dun dun. It's like a song.
It sounds so good.
It's good. It's a great song.
Yeah.
If it's supposed to be like an alert tone, it's not very alerting.
No.
It's calming.
It is. I love it.
Me too.
Make this my ringtone. Hello?
I know, it's so random, but it's such a great noise, right? Okay, anyway, back to the style of the car. A study found that 45% of people drive the car they chose based on the exterior style.
Before I got one and I would just see it on the road from far away, I actually would mistake it for a Porsche. I don't know, Porsche people probably think that's ridiculous, but I would be like, oh, that's a cool looking Porsche, and it would be a Tesla, and I was like, what? And really the last thing that I think makes the Tesla more worth it than any other car is the fact that the car is constantly getting better. No other car company is releasing software updates with new features.
The software updates give you a lot of cool little features like games, Netflix, YouTube.
It's crazy, like I can watch my own videos about my car in my car. Mind blown.
Sometimes the update will actually make the car more efficient and give you more range. I've also noticed that autopilot has gotten even better each time I update my car, and they also say within a few years the car will be able to be fully self-driving, which none of these other electric cars really are able to do.
And that's really why I think it's worth paying a bit more if you are considering one of the electric cars that are in the $30,000–$35,000 range. You might as well just save up a little more to get the Model 3 because it really is a lot better and it keeps getting better and it looks better, but that's just my opinion. So there is one exception to this whole thing though, and that is if you're buying a used car. Used Model 3s are literally the same price as a new one, if not sometimes more expensive. I think it's because there's a 5 to 6 week wait to even get a Model 3. However, with the Nissan Leaf and the Chevy Bolt, a used one is significantly cheaper. For example, this 2016 Nissan Leaf is only $10,000. Yes, it's not as good as a Tesla Model 3, but it's priced so much lower that it could be worth it if you're looking for an electric car and you don't need all the extra stuff. Even the Chevy Bolt, it's only a couple years used and it's like $10,000 less than a new one and like $15,000 or $20,000 less than a Tesla. So in those cases, I do think that is worth it. So that is why I think the Tesla Model 3 or the Model S or the Model X is really the only electric car worth buying at this point. But again, this is all just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think below. Do you drive a Nissan Leaf or a Chevy Bolt and think it's worth it or better than a Model 3? I'm actually really interested to know. This is really just based off of me renting a BMW i3 for a day, trying it out. I thought it was a pretty good car. I liked a lot of things about it, but I just was so shocked that it cost more than a Tesla because it's definitely not better than a Tesla. So that is it for this video. If you guys want to check out more Tesla videos, I will have them linked down below. And that is it. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.
Let's go. Do people do that on?
I don't know. I just wanted to see you. It's supposed to be like an alert alert tone. It's not very alerting.
No.
It's calming.
It is. I love it. Oh, there we go. What? Did he leave something in here? I got this car on Turo. We've already found some interesting items. Sleeping bag? What is this?
First impressions. I don't understand the shape. I don't
either.
understand it. It's like, you'd think that for like a bigger car that there'd be like more space here. I want them to like explain the shape of the car.
Can we interview like
Yes.
BMW? Like
Hello.
who designed this thing? All right, so I'm gonna put it on autopilot. Oh wait, it doesn't have that, so the windshield wipers just went off. Great.